Kia ora and welcome to Cinema in Context, where we discuss all things film and the connections between. My name is Jeremy Downing.
I'm Sarah Watt.
And I'm William Chen.
And each month at Cinema in Context, we discuss two films, one current and one retrospective, with some connection. It could be the same director, the same actor, or a similar theme. This month we are discussing Ocean's 8, which came out this month, and Ocean's 11, which came out in 2001. And of course the connection being that Ocean's 8 is a reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it, of Ocean's 11, which in fact was actually a remake of a 1960s film, I believe. Mm-hmm. Great. So, William, do you want to give us a bit of an overview of Ocean's 11?
Of course. So Ocean's 11 was directed by Steven Soderbergh. Depicts the events of a heist in Vegas led by one Danny Ocean, played by George Clooney. And he assembles a ragtag team of experts to kind of heist some money, but also have some personal revenge while he's at it. And it's very stylish. Everyone's dressed up very dapper, and it's just a rollicking good time.
Great. Sarah, what about Ocean's 8?
Well, Ocean's 8, which came out this year and was directed by Gary Ross, who is a friend and colleague of Steven Soderbergh, and Soderbergh did produce this film, takes a female slant on the same plot. Sandra Bullock plays Debbie Ocean, George Clooney, or rather Danny Ocean's sister, who is recently released from prison and has had 5 years in prison to devise a heist of her own. But this time, instead of going to Vegas, she assembles a ragtag group of 7 other women, and they decide to steal diamonds in the form of a diamond necklace off the neck of Anne Hathaway's character at the Met Ball in New York City. They all get to dress up in beautiful clothes and look fantastic, and they all have a rollicking good time.
Excellent. And it's worth noting that we will be discussing all spoilers in these films. Everything is up for grabs. We had a bit of an ethos shift in our last podcast, if you missed the memo. So you have been warned. If you haven't seen either of these films and don't want them spoiled, then I suggest pausing the podcast and returning at a time when you've watched them. Great. Let's jump in. Who wants to start us off?
Well, can I just say, if only they would pay me to do effectively a find and replace on an existing film, then, oh my goodness, I could make a wonderful movie. You just say, Sarah, take this script, yeah, but let's put a female slant on it. Otherwise, you can do it all the same as much as you like. Well, what an easy and wonderful, delightful job that would have been.
I didn't realise how much the same it was until I was watching Ocean's 11 last night.
That's right, again, right.
Even down to Cate Blanchett pulling aside Sandra Bullock and saying, what is this about revenge? You know,
yes.
Like even then, it's really is just a remake of you know.
Yeah.
It is.
A reskin, basically.
Yeah. And of course, it will all obviously have been sort of a nose-tapping kind of, let's have the brunette character with the blonde offsider, the Cate Blanchett and the Brad Pitt, with whom there has been previous sort of a relationship of sorts, and we'll get into that. But the bromance, and I don't know what the girl equivalent of a bromance is. It's not a homance, but that's a complete parallel.
Yeah.
But even down to, as I say, the hair colour. Do you know what I mean?
Does Cate Blanchett chew? Does she eat things, or is that just the Brad Pitt thing?
I didn't notice that as being one of her things.
She's the chef during the heist, isn't she?
Yes, that's true.
But I don't know how
she's the nutritionist, isn't she? She's brought in as the nutritionist. But anyway, I've got a long list of this is the same as that, this is the same as that. So perhaps we can eke those out during the course of our discussion.
Yeah, and I haven't got as clear a grasp on that as perhaps you do. But I did. The biggest thing about Ocean's 8 that struck me was the cast is fantastic. I thought, if you're going to collect a group of 8 women to fill the spot, paint by numbers, or however you want to call it. I mean, they've got some of the greatest actors on the planet in this film, with Cate Blanchett, Helena Bonham Carter. Sarah Paulson is just
she's amazing,
great addition,
isn't she?
She is amazing. She's amazing in everything that she does.
And she's inspired casting, because there'd be a lot of people who don't realise they've seen her in anything before. And for those of us who have seen American Crime Story and Horror Story and other things, and love her for being that indie face in indie movies for the last couple of decades, what a delight to see her really getting her teeth into such a humorous role as the mom, almost literally the soccer mom who goes away to be the fence and do this amazing job. And obviously she winds up sort of project managing the heist, doesn't she, from inside the Met Ball. So yeah, fun.
Yeah, I really felt like actually focusing in on fewer characters helps Ocean's 8 a lot.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because Ocean's 11 also has a fantastic cast, but some people kind of get left by the wayside. What's his name? Ruben, the financier.
Is that Elliot Gould's character?
Yes, it is.
He disappears.
He just disappears for the entire second act.
Yeah.
And he pops back at the end when everyone's celebrating. Oh yeah, this guy's in on it.
Yeah. And even though Casey Affleck and Scott Caan work well as sort of these Gemini twins, or they're not twins, but the brothers who are bitching at each other the whole time, and that does deliver good lols. Effectively, they're given one character's screen time, aren't they? So you're right.
And it was fun though watching Ocean's 11 and seeing them pop up in the different costumes. It was just the visual gag of them, turning up as the bellboys and the security guards. I did think though, in rewatching, there's that scene where they are dressed up as the waiters and then they leave their outfits in the lift. And I'm like, what?
It's exactly...
Why not just get changed in the room you were just in?
I know. I thought, bunch of amateurs. And I actually said aloud, why are they leaving the things in the lift? And my husband, with whom I was watching it, said, well, no, they're now dressed as bellboys. I said, no, why are they leaving the things in the lift? Maybe I've been watching too many police procedurals lately. But
there was no benefit to them being dressed for a little bit.
The camera even lingers on that.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, here we go.
And it's not like it's used later on that somebody finds it and goes, wait a second, maybe we're being heisted. Do you know what I mean? So it did seem a little bit... Maybe it was cut out. I don't know.
Talking about the camera work, I really loved the camera work in Ocean's 11. And it captures all the zooms, the 70s zooms, and just the beautiful lighting.
Is it just me, or do they actually play with film grain as well? Because a lot of it looks like it's from the 70s.
So I read somewhere that he had a heightened shutter speed or something like that to make it look choppy and something like that. I don't fully understand. But yeah, this definitely has a real grain about it. It has a real 70s-esque and also 60s. It has a whole mixture of 60s.
And it's very gold. And I know that Soderbergh is gold anyway in a lot of his films. But obviously in Vegas, whenever they're inside the Flamingo in the flashbacks or the Bellagio or whatever, the gold is so striking. And it is very, very lush and beautiful.
On the other hand, I don't know about you guys, but I found Ocean's 8 to be not a pretty picture.
Why is that? Oh, you mean cinematographically?
As in the image itself. It's just... I know people talk about Gary Ross as being a journeyman and all that stuff. He's the guy like Ron Howard who comes in to get stuff done.
That's
He's
right.
not flashy.
He's not flamboyant.
No.
Not a visionary.
But when you compare the two movies back to back, it is stark.
Yes.
The differences.
I did find that as well.
And especially you have the Metropolitan Museum as your setting, which is one of the most wonderful art museums in the world, and you shoot it like this, like it feels like watching it, the Met is just, it's a couple of rooms and a big, antechamber with some Egyptian, and that's it. Where,
yeah, true.
The original, the remake of Ocean's 11 had so much character with Vegas, and obviously they don't shoot it at the Bellagio, but you felt like they shot it at
No,
the
they
Bellagio.
did it, didn't they?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure I was reading online.
Wait, or if it was shot in the Bellagio?
They were 3/4 of their filming was at the Bellagio.
Really?
Something like that.
Oh.
To be fair, what I'd say is this. I bet you they had this discussion, and I totally agree with what you're saying, but Vegas is a little bit like when they shoot in New Zealand, and everyone says, New Zealand's scenery is almost a character in itself. You know what I mean? It does half the work for the film.
New York City is the next lead in our movie.
But they weren't sort of being in New York, right? But you're right in saying they were in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I totally hear you. But it's the art that is beautiful in there, and similarly, it's the dresses at the Met Ball that are beautiful, not the surrounds. Whereas in Vegas, I don't remember anything that any of those men were wearing other than obviously costumes that denoted their role, bellboy, medic or whatever. But the environment was stunning and was really beautiful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wonder whether, because I think, and we'll get onto this, but my female gaze, and obviously this is why Ocean's 8 was designed as it was, not to be let's steal money from a bank vault, but hey, let's dress up in beautiful dresses and have this amazing diamond necklace, All the magpies in the audience are going, I'd wear that.
Well, when I was watching the film, I had... what part was it? When Rihanna came out in her red dress. There was a woman in front of me and a woman behind me, and they went,
yes,
this intake. And I thought, okay, I see. This is clearly this is not for me. I thought she looked beautiful, but I wasn't like... that dress, So there was definitely
She did. She looked amazing.
Physical reaction from these people.
And what was so lovely about that is all we'd seen her in before that was overalls and t-shirt. I mean, looking cool looking like the kind of chick you want to be. But then it was a bit like, oh, is she going to get to wear a dress? Yes, she is. Wow.
I actually loved that. That was a fantastic moment when they're all walking down the stairs. The sort of success moment when they're all wearing different dresses.
So that moment was great, but why do we get that moment?
It's the hero shot. It's like
but why does Rihanna go in? I don't understand.
Because she has to wear a dress, otherwise it's not
But
fair.
I mean, story-wise, and why does Mindy Kaling have to wear? I understand why, but why? No, story-wise.
I don't think you're a girl, will you?
No, I mean, they could have they could have made it better. They could have made it sensible so that they all come out in dresses instead of Mindy Kaling suddenly appearing in a dress. Like, logically, to me, the plot kind of... There's these cuts.
Oh, look,
and these empty spaces
totally
where,
right.
like, what is happening? They're all in dresses now?
Well, look, you're totally right. To be fair, when Mindy and when Rihanna walked out, the proper person in me did think, well, how did they get invites? Did Sarah Paulson make this happen too? Because this isn't realistic.
Oh, yeah.
How would they have got on the
did.
list?
Sorry, that may be explained.
So I would say that
But
Sarah
also,
Paulson...
isn't it so that they can smuggle out the jewellery? They need to look beautiful to get the
so that
jewellery
they
out
can
of
walk out with a tiny... Because you know how the jewels were broken, the necklace was... Which I thought was a travesty, breaking that necklace down.
Yeah,
but
I
whatever.
as well. I
It's
was
just like, put it in your handbag, love, and walk out. No, we're gonna painstakingly cut it up into crappy little pieces of diamond, and then we're gonna smuggle them out. But that'll be why. That's the whole... So that they're all in on it, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's totally... It's like Jaws being exploded at the end of the film. That makes no sense. It's like, you just need it.
Yeah.
You need the hero shot. It is the equivalent of the SWAT team leaving, isn't it?
But no one would have signed on for a role if they'd said, now look, actually all the other girls are going to get to wear a nice dress at the end, but you're not because you were just dressed as a chef.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
I love Mindy Kaling in this film. Is it Kaling? Whatever it is.
Kaling, I always say, yeah.
She's so wonderful, and she's a great comedian. But just to see her, just be a lovely character. She was a great character, I thought, and she added a lot to the film. I always loved Cate Blanchett. It was quite cool to see her in her Australian accent as well.
That's right.
That was interesting. So here's a question for you. Right at the beginning, both films start with the parole hearing, which is pretty much to camera, although it's sort of, slightly off, not down the lens, but two invisible interrogators behind the camera. Both of them do that. Both the Oceans are, you'll note when they leave the prison, they're dressed in the fancy garb that they were in at the moment of arrest, so there's all these parallels. But both of them talk about a relationship problem that caused or contributed to their getting in trouble in the first place. And I noticed that Debbie Ocean said, I got involved with the wrong person. And I immediately said to the person next to me, I think she's going to turn out to be gay. And that she and Cate Blanchett had a relationship. Because otherwise she would have said, I got involved with the wrong man. So there I am, girding my loins for this incredibly 21st century modern feminist reveal that never quite came. And then, of course, there's that confusion around the Richard North character, who I thought was perfectly... Is his name Richard North?
Is he the Hobbit?
Armitage?
Oh, sorry, Richard Armitage.
The Hobbit.
He plays Lucas North in Spooks. That's where I'm getting mixed up. So that guy, and he's in...
He's the dwarf in the
That's
Hobbit,
right. So then there's that sort of confusion, and the revenge is around the fact that he jilted her, dobbed her in, or whatever it was, So... Did I infer something that wasn't there to be inferred?
I didn't think of that at the start, but I did think there was... I guess it was the female version of a bromance. They were quite... there was sort of the feeding the food and stuff, and I was thinking, oh, okay, this is interesting.
And then when they're talking in a very innocuous, very boring, underlit, underplayed, and under-soundtrack moment down by the water or something, Debbie and... I don't even know Cate Blanchett's character's name. Lou, that's right. Somebody says, they're talking a little bit like they used to have a thing and then things went wrong, and they use the word partner, which of course is ambiguous because it could just mean partner in crime. But I thought I picked up on something. At some stage, Debbie Ocean says things weren't going well with Lou.
Yeah.
So, so I just thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity. And
it was like when I watched Winter Soldier, and it's like the whole film, Scarlet Johansson is, who is she? Black Widow.
Black Widow.
She's like trying to set Steve Rogers up, and she's like, oh, what about such and such in filing? And he's like, oh no. And then like Bucky Barnes and also his partner, his wingman,
Falcon
comes into it. And I'm like, oh, and me and my friends were like that. We're like, Are they going to
And then it's like, no.
No. And he has no love interest in that film, isn't it, until the next one, I think.
Yeah.
Has it?
And even then, it's pretty weak. It's like, yep,
Yeah.
he's not gay, you guys. He's not gay.
Yeah.
We promise.
I tell you one thing that obviously is quite refreshing. And look, I mean, it's even ridiculous to say it because in our current climate, there is no way they would have done it any other way. But it's quite refreshing that apart from the revenge on the Richard Armitage character, there are no men in these women's lives. And nobody even has a bit on the side that they are preoccupied by. And so then at the end, they're all hanging out together and feeding each other pizza and having a drink and being girls all together. And I think that's a really important, lovely, strong, cool message, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about that scene. And William and I posted my review of this film, and he said we're going to discuss this today. I usually like Anne Hathaway, but I had real issues with... Not so much. Her character was fine, you know, the kind of vapid, bitchy, over-the-top diva. But the whole reveal of her being in on the heist and just the way that she was so quick to throw the guy under the bus, it just was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, for me, it was
a
so
convenience,
poorly.
eh?
It was so contrived. And I did not enjoy the way that she was just brought
Did it come as a
into
surprise to you? Because actually, watching the trailer, I thought, oh, I wonder if she's in on it. So
Yeah,
I wasn't
it wasn't
that
a surprise.
surprised.
Oh, I wasn't surprised, but it wasn't earned. I was just
No.
like,
And I'm a dummy. I thought it was a surprise.
You're like, Anne Hathaway, she can do no
Came
wrong.
out and okay.
Yeah.
So she's actually playing the femme fatale role.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy. I don't know why, but I enjoyed her performance throughout, and even with the turn.
I liked her too, yeah.
I thought it wasn't earned so much that it was just it felt like I did not have gripes. And then, of course, from then on out, when they end up setting up Richard Armitage and all that, I thought that was okay. Like, I didn't have any beef with how the character was handled. I do, going back to Ocean's 11, have beef with how the Julia Roberts character is handled.
Talk about that.
yeah, that's
And
right.
yeah, so let's flip to that, which is, guys, what is the point of Julia Roberts in Ocean's 11?
She's a meat puppet.
And
Is that an actual term?
I say that as a person who's there just to fulfill a role that's beyond being a
Yeah.
human.
But she's there.
She's just there as a woman to be.
is she
fought
there to
over.
link, like, to make it okay for us to hate Andy Garcia? Like, what?
Sure. But also, she's there so that at the end, Andy Garcia can be... Because he actually is quite well written as a not that horrible guy.
Yeah.
Or certainly she doesn't see him as a horrible guy. And she, can I just say, I love her so much. I love her acting, and I love how when she smiles
Same.
at him, it looks like she loves him and believes him. I think it's incredible. But then, of course, there's that somewhat ridiculous reveal in the corridor where George Clooney says, I'd give up this $136 million for Tess. And he goes, yeah, all right then. And she has the gall to be upset about it. I'm like, well, lady, I mean, that's a shitload of money.
I thought it was silly as well.
But that's why, isn't it? Because otherwise, how was Danny Ocean going to get the moral superiority to trick whatnot?
She's there as a prop.
Mm-hmm.
I did
A chattel, which is worse, because in effect, it's almost like saying, I'll sell you her for 136 million, you know.
It's probably, man, particularly as the only woman in the film.
Welcome to
But in terms of
2001.
her acting, it is wonderful. Like, there's that moment where he first touches her shoulder and she turns around and she
Yes.
says, what are you doing
Oh.
here? And
Yes.
it's just,
No, she says, you're
she's-
30 seconds late. I was,
and then she goes, what are you doing? You know, it's
Yeah.
just her, she's so subtle. And I haven't seen Julia Roberts in something for a while, and I'm just so enjoying watching her.
Oh, marvellous.
In fact, all the actors, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Matt Damon's
He's
fantastic.
fabulous in it. and it's ridiculous because he did that, you know how he plays the role within the role, if you know what I mean. When he goes in as the gaming commissioner, he's so great at it. And as he walked away, I said, he did that so well. He was so good at that. And then I'm like, actually, of course he is, because he's acting. and furthermore, he's an actor acting like he's acting. So of course he did it well. But he was fabulous.
Yeah.
That role that he played reminded me so much of what's that other Soderbergh movie called? The one
Informant.
The Informant, yeah. Like it was the same kind of style, the same, inflection.
Which is a later film, obviously,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
I've never seen that film, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Damon playing a
It's
clean
not
cut
bad.
guy.
And then Bernie Mac is super cool.
I loved when he turned, because he's the first one to turn up after
Yeah.
George, isn't it? And I was like, oh, Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
There's something so lovely about him.
Yeah.
What about Don Cheadle? I didn't know
Oh,
this was
can
him.
I
And what about his
say,
accent?
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
accent, every time he came on every time he came on
Screen.
screen, and said something. I said out loud, I couldn't stop myself from going, oh, for crying out loud, every time. So I do want to draw comparisons between the casts and the way the casts were built.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're both diverse in their way, ethnically diverse, although Ocean's 8 is better ethnically diverse because it has an actual British person, Australian, some Americans, people of colour, and South Asian and East Asian actresses. So well done, Ocean's 8. But at least Helena Bonham Carter, who was playing not her real accent, can do a really good Irish accent.
She did a great
because
Irish
she's
accent.
a proper actress. Don Cheadle is an abomination.
You know, he tried to revert to his American accent for the sequels, and his contract wouldn't allow it.
Oh, what a shame for everyone.
It was really bad.
It was terrible. All right, Governor.
Yeah.
Barney.
Barney Rubble.
Oh, God, it was so cringy.
Trouble.
Oh, we get it. Did you
again,
understand
so
what
British.
you said?
I will say, in his defense, it's not as bad as Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins.
Oh, look, that's quite a large scale.
He is still dropping those H's like there's no tomorrow.
Awful.
He has some great moments, though. I love him covering himself when he goes to press the EMP. And
Oh, no, I just thought he was so bad.
I forgot he was in it.
It was like everyone else was more or less realistic kind of, and he was just this cartoon character out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I love and I don't know the actor's name, but the old guy. And it did make me think.
Oh, Carl Reiner?
Yes.
He was wonderful.
Rob Reiner's dad.
Oh, right. Because he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it made me think that there were no elderly women in Ocean's 8. I thought that was a shame. There's so
Wait.
many great older women.
Is there not a mum in it? Is there not someone's mom? What am I thinking
There's
of?
4 old ladies.
Oh, yeah, true. But they're not really.
Yeah, it's a throwaway kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What about James Corden coming in?
Corden.
Corden, sorry. James Corden.
Well, people have said, I've read reviews that have said he was really great and it really picks up when he's in it. And I felt personally it was too much James just being James.
It was like Inspector Clouseau coming in at the end or something.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
or they straight up call him, what's it called? It's like they straight up called him Columbo in the dialogue.
Oh,
it's
did
like,
they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
this
interesting.
Columbo-looking fella coming
Right.
in.
I don't get that reference.
The archetypal British detective from the 70s, I guess.
Yeah. That makes sense. That
Right.
kind of detective.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel it. I mean, he is a great actor, but I didn't feel that I was seeing him acting. I felt that I saw him coming on as James Corden.
I think I still have residual hatred of him from that Peter Rabbit movie.
Oh, right.
I didn't see that.
Oh boy. But I liked him, but I hated that 4th act. I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, it didn't make much sense either. I didn't kind of know why he was happy to go along. I get that he just wanted the necklace back, but he didn't get the necklace back. And it just...
I wonder
weird.
whether it sort of tried to be a little bit too clever and tied itself in knots ultimately.
Because I think the
plot,
great the great thing about Ocean's 11 is that the build up and the payoff is just paced so well.
Yeah.
And then when they win, you cheer for the heroes, and then they go their separate ways, and it's this moment of just celebration.
Yeah.
And in Ocean's 8, that moment happens like 20 minutes before the end. You have this weird little coda, and Anne Hathaway reveals herself. And okay,
Agreed.
fine, but it's just lagging in energy, and nothing really means anything anymore. So that when they reveal, how the heist actually went down, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
I last time I was watching Ocean's 11, I had to do something, make a cup of tea, I can't remember, and I kept trying to find spots to pause the film, and I kept not wanting to because it was so well paced and woven together, and it's just such a wonderful ride, and just moves in such a lovely pace, like you're saying. But that was my biggest issue with Ocean's 8, was that it dragged. It did not need to be 2 hours long. They should have cut out half an hour of that film. And the dialogue, there's some terrible dialogue in that movie. Whereas the dialogue in Ocean's 11 there's some really lovely moments in that.
I think you make a really interesting point because I agree that Ocean's 11... So, when I watched Ocean's 8... I thought the intro, the beginning, when Sandra Bullock is in the department store and she is tricking people out of things and going to the hotel, I thought, oh my goodness, let me write down how to do this because this is amazing. And B...
I thought about that as well.
Right, I was like, this is
opening,
incredible, and B, this is so enjoyable and fun because I love watching kind of heisty, crimey, dupey kind of stuff. Then... So if you think that, it went up in energy, the pace was good, you're like, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then it really dipped for a while. And I found that I was straining to hear what was being said. And I don't think it's because I'm going a bit deaf. And I was in the extreme screen, so it's not like I wasn't in a cinema that could cope with it. But I really noticed that the sort of, I don't know, scene 2, say, where she's talking to Lou and she's saying, we're going to need some people. It all felt very lo-fi, rather gentle.
I agree.
And then it picked up for the actual jewel heist, which was good.
I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
the heist.
And I thought that was beautifully orchestrated and really interesting. And then it goes a bit funny towards the end. Now, with Ocean's 11, what I noticed on a repeat viewing is it starts really quiet. And there were bits where I was straining to hear what George Clooney and Brad Pitt were saying to one another, and it felt a bit more like I'm watching George and Brad, who we know are mates, sort of having a conversation. And I thought, well, this is interesting. There's a little bit like what Gary Ross did. It's quite lo-fi. There's no soundtrack underneath. But my goodness, when Ocean's 11 then kicks off, the soundtrack's going the whole time, and it does. It builds, and you're with it right to the end. So a different sort of trajectory that I do think worked better.
I agree. I feel like they explained the heist 2 or 3 times in the start, so that when the actual
Which
heist
one?
in Ocean's 8,
Yeah.
So when the heist happened, it kind of just happened how they said it was going to happen, with a little bit of a twist at the end about something else.
Well, and nothing really goes wrong, does it?
No.
In heist movies, you gotta have the spanner
that's
that works,
right.
and they have to somehow.
I
rearrange
agree.
their plans.
And watching Ocean's 11, they had some great moments of things going wrong. So they change up the security system, or
and they also make you think things will go
I
wrong.
love that with Carl Reiner
Yes,
and how I was like, oh my gosh, he's
going to get sick.
He's going to get sick,
Yeah.
but that's all part of the game.
Yeah, that's right. So you're right. Those sort of double, triple crosses or twists work really well. And you're right, that didn't happen in Ocean's 8, except possibly for that moment when the busboys are taking the trays away and they loiter too long to have a chat in the corridor, and the jeweled necklace is on the tray. That's about the only tiny wincy moment of, oh no, he's meant to have kept
Yeah,
walking.
but that annoyed me because Sarah Paulson's character looked at the camera afterwards, and I'm thinking, surely that's a giveaway to the people
I didn't notice that.
looking through the footage.
CCTV later.
Well, she's looking
Yeah.
at her partners, but
Right. But I mean, but it wasn't even a moment of high anxiety. It
No,
was kind of,
there isn't actually much tension in the film.
That's
Whereas
right.
in Ocean's 11, there's a lot of tension and
Yeah.
things going wrong. I'm like that scene where they go and steal the EMP and Matt Damon stupidly goes into the building and they come out the other door and he, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
wreck the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then of course the hand getting crushed.
Which kind
Chinese
of
acrobat.
domino effects later on to
and of course he's
further issues.
in Ocean's 8.
Yeah, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
You guys.
That was what was that? It's
I
because we needed that kind of person and we couldn't be bothered setting that up.
Yeah.
Isn't it just all about, well, we've got this movie and we're doing a find and replace, and we need to keep nodding to Ocean's 11?
Who was the guy? Who was the lawyer that came and spoke to Sandra Bullock in the?
I thought that was Ruben, wasn't it? No, it wasn't.
I don't know.
I thought it was actually
wait.
him.
Okay, hold
Was
the line.
it?
And so he because she said something like, "Oh, you're the one," they said.
Oh, so maybe
That
it
makes
was
sense
Elliot
now,
Gould.
but I did not pick it up. You Google it.
And so I guess he was just hiding behind the mausoleum this whole time, waiting for her to come
Of
by.
course.
Well, that's okay. So the ending as well was silly. She's waiting at the grave, having a drink to Danny Ocean, and then I was thinking he's got to turn up,
Yeah.
but then he doesn't. Oh, what's the point of the
I
scene?
know.
No, it cuts like a tad early because then George Clooney shows up.
No, I wish that was the case because there's no reason to suggest that Danny Ocean's actually died.
Well,
right? They just threw that in.
They make a joke about it as well. It's like,
Yeah.
is he actually
Is he
dead?
really
Well,
dead?
you know,
Well, that's
who
just
knows?
Weird.
It just would have been really nice for him to walk around the corner and go, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Deb, well done. You're right, that was Elliot Gould returning.
Maybe he's floating in space still. Sandra Bullock.
I don't think he's dead. I think they've
Nice.
left that open up so that they can do Ocean's 9. Please don't. I mean, I have to say, I did not enjoy Ocean's 12 or 13.
I
No,
haven't seen
I mean, you haven't seen Ocean's 12?
No.
It's a horrible movie, Jeremy. You
that's
have
why-
to watch
that's
it.
With all your free time.
because I really want to see crap films.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as everyone says, it's just, let's watch a bunch of super rich people have a holiday in Europe.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
That's it.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. One of my issues with the original 1960, 1954, whatever it is, the Rat Pack,
Have you seen it?
Ocean's 11 back in the
Oh,
day.
have you seen it, William?
No,
I saw it. I was going to say I saw it back in the day. I didn't see it in the 60s, obviously. But My issue with it is it feels way too much like a bunch of mates hanging out with a video camera going, hey, let's make a movie.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Well, it basically is. Yeah. And so Ocean's 11, the new one, the Soderbergh one, actually I think was terrific as its own film. But 12 and 13 feel to me like those mates getting together going, hey, let's just make a movie because we had fun last time. We know people will come. And I feel like that, I hate it when I feel like you're taking the piss, quite honestly, because you're charging me $18.40 to come and watch you guys have a good time. And actually, I want something that's a bit more substantial or clever or whatever. Yeah. That's just how I feel.
Oh, I haven't seen them, but I agree with the sentiment.
So I'll just say, Jeremy, without spoiling really Ocean's 12, that Julia Roberts plays a really prominent role. And you have to see it to believe it. Yeah.
Why don't you spoiler it?
Yeah,
he's not going to see it.
Wait, you're never going to see it?
Nah, and just
okay.
Tell me.
Well, Julia Roberts is the 12 of Ocean's 12, so she's part of the con.
Because she's back with Danny by then,
yes.
you see.
Right.
And they're married again. And so the whole thing builds up to a fever pitch where they need to steal this Fabergé egg, and there's guards everywhere, and they go, oh, Tess, wait, doesn't she look like... Why, yes. And so Tess poses as Julia Roberts, the actor, in order, and it's like, holy cow.
That's horrible.
You did not just do that movie. And it's all these jokes about Julia Roberts, and Bruce Willis comes in playing himself. It's like, oh, Jules, I don't know you. Yeah.
That's really dumb.
It is really dumb.
That's really dumb. It's like Stephen King, this is not dumb, but Stephen King writes himself into the Duck Tower series as the writer of the Duck Tower series. It's wonderful, and they have to save Stephen King. But of course, that's a series all about alternate parallel universes and timelines.
Well,
but Ocean's 12, wah wah.
Well, this is a really interesting segue into the final point that I made, which is in both films you've got real people.
Oh yeah.
What do we call them? Non-actors. Like real people playing themselves, right? So at the boxing match, you've got real people. Boxing match.
And
yes.
you have Topher Grace playing
Topher Grace.
All these but that poker game. I mean, they're all like, oh, how do we play? I'm like,
it's awful.
You learn poker in one moment. Like, you're not going to be that dumb.
But I guess in those days it was probably an interesting conceit to have real celebrities playing themselves. Yeah. And it blurs the lines quite kind of nicely, I suppose. And then, of course, obviously, in Ocean's 8, they go to the Met Gala, and they literally do have Anna Wintour, editor of Vogue, and they do have Richard McThingy-Majig, who's the chap who sets up the Met Gala and all that. So, I mean, one thing, kudos to Gary Ross and the production, really, to be able to get access to the real people and the real places and the designers and all that sort of thing. And I've read quite an interesting article on how they did that. But the point was made in this article that there's something really cute about the fact that Rihanna, who is a staple of the Met Ball Gala itself and wore this fabulous golden yellow dress last time, is now in the film playing a character who breaks into the Met Gala. So there's all this really nice meta sort of stuff going on. So yeah.
Because I do feel like the cast is great, the story itself is pretty good in Ocean's 8. And I just think if they had tidied up that script, and if they had figured out the ending to be a bit clearer, and if they had either cut the stupid cemetery scenes or brought George Clooney into it, it would have been a much more fun film.
Yeah.
It only needed to be an hour and a half, and it didn't need to have the kind of weight that perhaps Ocean's 11 has. Because I do think Ocean's 11 has quite a dramatic weight to it in certain parts, but make it a bit more fun in terms of just tightening it up,
and not have dialogue like, this 3D printer will print the whole thing in zirconium, and the character's going,
that's okay.
No, the one I don't like is when that stupid gag when they need to turn on the box. Was it even in the film?
No, it's only in the trailer.
In the trailer.
Only in the trailer.
Stupid. There's lots of gags like that.
I loved the bit where Helena Bonham Carter and Mindy Kaling go to look at the Cartier jewellery and the glasses take the picture of it and that. That's a neat scene. Just
Helena
because
Bonham
it's so
Carter,
clever. And
she was brilliant.
Yeah.
That, I agree. And then, we need to see it in the light. And, that was
apparently
great.
she designed her own costume for the ball with the birds in her hair and all that sort of thing, which is such a Helena Bonham Carter thing to do anyway.
I forget how good Helena Bonham Carter can be.
Yes.
Because she's been in so much crap and, really bad Disney movies and this and that. And to see her actually, act as a natural human being, more or less.
Yeah, more or less,
is refreshing and just really, really lovely.
And to do such a good accent.
Yeah.
It's not her own.
I always, whenever I go back and watch Fight Club, I just always, it's not that I forget that she's in it, but when she steps onto the screen, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she is just...
Because you forget that it's her. That's the thing.
She's so wonderful
not,
in that movie.
Yeah.
I fully agree with you, William. And she was such a joy. But I feel like that about all of the actors.
Yeah.
They just, Kate Blanchett being just real...
Super cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
And also Sandra Bullock, she wasn't too Sandra Bullocky.
I really like Sandra Bullock
reserved.
Anyway. Yeah, I just really like her.
I like her too, but
Yeah.
she's often very sort of quipping. And, but she just was quite reserved in this.
Yeah.
It was quite lovely.
I will just say, as the female at the table, watching Ocean's 11 now, it did feel a little bit dated, and it did feel incredibly, if not, obviously not as drastic as misogynistic, but there is nothing redeeming about it at all in its portrayal or even its bothering to cast women.
Portrayal? What?
Of women.
No, but there's no portrayal of women anyway.
Well, I mean, Julia, but you know what I mean? And that's much more marked now than it was back then. And so, you know, I hear that Ocean's 8's been getting a little bit of a, I don't know about a slamming, but, you know, there have been people kind of criticizing in that. And I think that even though it could have been tightened up and it could have done even better, it could have gone from merit to excellence, if we're talking in school teacher terms, I still think it's such a worthy addition to not just a genre, but to, you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
A body of work.
I've been thinking a lot about this, you know, and when I was writing my reviews, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's low.
Well, I thought the screenplay was awful.
I would have given it 3.5, but that's because female gaze is going, it looked really good, and there was a lot of stuff about it I really appreciated.
So, and I had a bit of a debate with myself about whether or not, you know, because I agree with you. I think in terms of bringing a film that has predominantly female characters that are really well formed and some great actors and some great moments, should I give it more? And I was like, well, no, because, you know, I think it still needs to be a great film. But I was talking to some friends of mine, and one of them was saying he has no interest in seeing the film, not because of anything we've talked about, but because when you make a film that's like a recast of something like Ocean's 11, you're setting it up to be compared with its male counterpart. It's like, why not keep fostering projects by women, about women, that are their own entity? So I guess Ocean's 8 is another stepping stone, but you know, like the Ghostbusters, and I love Ghostbusters, but it's setting it up to be compared to.
But is that necessarily? I mean, that's obviously our lifeblood in cinema and context. So if we couldn't do that, I don't know what we'd be talking about this, because it sure as heck wouldn't be Hereditary. But is that necessarily so bad? Or, I mean, are you saying that it would have been better if somebody had said, hey, I've got an idea. I'm going to do a heist movie where there are 8 women and they get together and they steal some diamonds from the Met Ball. And they didn't make it anything related to Ocean's anybody. Well, I mean, don't you think people would have gone, well, it's basically just Ocean's 8, isn't it?
That's basically, it's Hollywood culture, isn't it? It's that claim of, you know, creative bankruptcy. And you come up with something it's a known property. People are going to see it, right? There's going to be a audience that are definitely going to go see an Ocean's movie.
Exactly.
Or a Ghostbusters movie. Or a Star Wars movie, you know.
Yeah.
And if you make another movie featuring, you know, mystic space monks and laser swords and something else.
And some guy who has to go find a ship to there or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
People are...
Like, sorry, this is kind of going off track, but I agree with people who say that Solo would have been so much cooler as a Star Wars movie if it wasn't about Han Solo. Like, give us a story about a smuggler trying to make his way in the universe. It doesn't need to be linked in with anything. But they do it anyway because there is name recognition.
Yeah, because you know, people will go.
And it's comfort food, right? You kind of know what you're getting into going to Ocean's 8 or, you know, Solo.
Yeah. So maybe I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that question, but...
like everything William says is absolutely true. They're going to call it Ocean's 8 and more people will go. Yeah. But I do feel like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because if you don't and you gather a team of anybody more than 3, then people are going to go, well, it's just like an Ocean's movie.
Yeah.
Except it's got girls in it.
So what do you guys think about it being called Ocean's 8? Because I read something online.
As opposed to 11?
No. I read something online, like the reason why it's Ocean's 8 is so they'll have space through Ocean's 9. And then Ocean's 10 linking up to Ocean's 11. So 10 being possibly the big, like, George Clooney comes back, and it's like this big mix of casts.
But wouldn't this mean this is the Phantom Menace of the sexology or whatever
yeah, right.
it's called? Which means that Ocean's 10 is going to be terrible.
And is it making money? It's making quite doing quite well at the box
It's doing
office.
well.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to watch. Not that I really want another one, but if they had another great cast and the story was half decent, I'll be happy to go along and pay my money to see some
But you know what's such a
heists.
bum, and this is what we alluded to at the very beginning with 11, you don't get 11 solid characters and 11 solid stories. And so even though, I must confess, when I first heard there was an Ocean's 8, I was a bit like, couldn't they find any more than that in terms of high-profile women in Hollywood? But actually, at least the 8 we had, with some exceptions, Aquafina, you don't really get to know a whole lot about in that, but you know what I mean? Moderately well developed. The more you have, the more it starts to just become also, another one of these, and it all gets a bit more diluted.
Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't made that connection that they were setting it up for another trilogy. But yeah,
That's funny, though.
I think that's
Yeah.
totally
Plausible.
absolutely correct. Because it's better doing that than doing Ocean's 14, isn't it?
Oh, boy.
How many people will have looked at the poster for Ocean's 8 and gone, wait, Anna Hathaway's in there as one of them. Maybe she's one of them.
Well, that's how I knew that she was. That's how I knew that she was going to be.
I thought she was going to be the clueless, like, well, there's a character in Ocean's 13 who similarly is not in on the con, but is part of the con as a pawn.
But are they one of the 13?
No.
No,
But I thought that, well, from the trailers, I thought that was what she was going to be.
But isn't she one of the 8?
She is on the poster.
Yeah.
But again,
And in the film, therefore.
Maybe I'm just a big old dummy. Like,
Maybe you are. No, you're not. Just in this instance, I think you were a bit bedazzled by the jewels,
I have to
William.
say, I was, in terms of twists, I was the reveal that they were stealing the other jewels. Even though I knew Kate Blanchett wasn't really popping up, I hadn't made that connection that she was doing something else on the side. I thought that was a nice reveal.
Yeah, that was good.
They did that well. Even if they did have a cameo that was a little bit like, really.
Because they did offer them a heck of a lot of money at the beginning. It was something like, you're going to get $16 million. And
I was doing the math as
I was
well.
doing the math, and I was
thinking,
like, wait.
Oh, actually, that's another thing. Talking about math. In Ocean's 11, at the start of the film, he says, we're going to rob a casino. And George Clooney goes, we're going to rob 3.
Yeah.
But then they only rob 1.
That's what I thought.
Oh, no, because all three
the
casinos have
money.
their money from their cages transferred over
That's
to the
right.
vault of the Bellagio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Phew.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema in Context. If you enjoyed our podcast, then please share it with your film-loving friends. You can listen to Cinema in Context through SoundCloud or through Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on Twitter or YouTube, which are great places to let us know what you think of this episode, or maybe give us suggestions for future films to discuss and compare. Look out for our next episode in a month's time, and until then, ka kite anō.